Snapshot 24W10A brings us Datapack version 34 with support for custom wolf variants, custom banner patterns, and item components in recipe results. My name is Slime and I'm here to show you all the technical news for this snapshot. Let's start with recipes. The result item for recipes of type crafting shaped, crafting shapeless, stone cutting, and smithing transform now accept data component definitions under the components field. In addition, the results field of smelting, blasting, smoking, and campfire cooking recipe types have been changed from a string describing an item to a full item definition, including an ID field with the item ID and a components field that accepts data components. Note that this item does not accept a count field. The resulting item count is always 1. Of course, the snapshot also brought us new wolf variants, and these are in fact data-driven. Adding a wolf variant is done by adding a file under the wolf variant registry folder. This is not reloadable data at the moment, so changing this data will require a world save and reload. The files for wolf variants have 3 fields for the texture of the wolf: texture for the default texture, tame texture for the texture once tamed, and angry texture for the texture of a wolf attacking something. The last field in the format is the biomes field, which defines which biomes the variant can spawn in. This is either a single biome ID, a list of biome IDs, or a hash prefixed biome tag. Of course, in order for this to work, the defined textures must also exist, so you may have to add a resource pack for the custom wolf. The next format available is for banner patterns. This can be found under the banner pattern registry folder. Each asset here is pretty simple. It has a translation key pointing out how the pattern is described, and an asset ID, which is a namespaced ID. This ID is used to derive the locations of the pattern textures for both banners and shields. As with the wolves, you'll probably need to add a resource pack with the banner textures. Another thing to note is that if you want them to show up in the loom without requiring a pattern item, you'll also want to add your custom banner patterns to the no item required banner pattern tag. Let's move on to commands, where there are new slot arguments used by the item command. You can now use player.cursor to access the item held in the player's cursor for players in survival or adventure mode, and player.crafting.0, 1, 2, and 3 to access the crafting slots in the player's inventory screen. There's a new command that uses these ranges as well. Execute if or unless items. This can be used to check for items in either entity or block inventories. The slots used in this command also support new slot ranges. For slots that have subfields like container.a number, you can use container.asterisk to check all those slots. When using a slot range like this, the check succeeds if any of the slots match the given item predicate. The item predicate here is the same format as the one used in the clear command. One known problem here is that the weapon slots are wrong in this snapshot. A command bug fix as well. The hide particles argument to the effect command now works again. Let's move on to predicates. Entity predicates can now use a new slots sub-predicate. This can use either a single slot or a slot range to check for item contents. The sub-predicate consists of a mapping from slot or slot range to item predicate, and here too, if a slot range is used, any matching item will cause the predicate to match. Let's move on to item components. There are a number of bug fixes in this version, but also some changes and simplifications. To begin with, the count of an item stack is now always serialized, even if the value is 1. This means that you can match against that in NBT checks. Omitting the count in item data is still valid and will still be implicitly interpreted as 1. A number of components now have an alternative simple form. Generally, this means that for these components, if you do not want to specify the show in tooltip flag, you can skip the containing object and inline the main field of the component. The lodestone target component has been renamed to lodestone tracker, and the pos and the dimension fields have moved into a target object, which is now optional. Omitting this field makes the compass a targetless one that will spin. The maximum number of fireworks explosions on a rocket and lore entries on any item has been increased to 256. All container block types now use the container component. In the previous snapshot, this was only the case for shulker boxes. The profile component no longer requires a name. Custom names are instead stored as custom name components. If the name is given, it needs to be a valid format name that can be resolved to a player profile. Related to that, the skull owner and extra type fields of skull block entities have been replaced with a profile field, which is now the same format as the profile item component. The skull block entity now also stores a custom name field, which is saved to the item when the skull is broken. In addition to this, a number of bugs have been fixed, including item modifiers not being able to remove components that weren't in an item's base template, and some item components resetting when a player performed inventory actions. Duplicate component definitions in an item modifier are now treated correctly on load. Let's wrap up with some attribute fixes. Attribute modifiers are now updated when switching between two hotbar slots containing items with modifiers towards the same attribute. Setting the gravity attribute to 0 no longer causes the flying check to kick players from servers. And attribute modifiers with missing fields are now upgraded properly. That's it for Datapack version 34. My name is Sliced Lime, thank you for watching, I'll see you next time.